I'm back. I'm in my pajamas. And I'm mad over some last chance gauntlet qualifier stuff, but we're not going to get into that. Not right now, anyway. So that's why it's nighttime. And I'm just getting around to recording this. But we're going to go over the new champion that got revealed today. It's Renekton, if you can't tell. And a bunch of other Shurima cards got revealed today, too. So we're going to talk about them and see how good they are. So let's jump into it. All right, so Renekton is level 1, 4 mana, 4/4 with Overwhelm. And when I challenge an enemy, give me +2/+1 this round. He's also ascended. That's important. In order for him to level up, he has to deal 12 damage. So that doesn't have to be in combat for those newer players. Keep that in mind. As long as you use a card that allows him to deal damage, even if it's outside of combat, that'll count toward the 12 damage. But yeah, his level 2, he becomes a 5/5, keeps Overwhelm, and every time he attacks, you give him +3/+3 for the round. Importantly, he can level up again. So that was something that was hinted at yesterday when the Buried Sun Disc got revealed. Basically showing that there were going to be certain champions that were ascended and would be able to level up twice, not just once. So Renekton is one of those ascended champions, which is the lore for he's an ascended champion in League of Legends. So the way you level up Renekton is by restoring the Sun Disc, the card we looked at yesterday. His level 3 is a 10/10 with Overwhelm, and he has a skill called Dominus Destruction, where when he blocks or attacks, you deal 2 to enemies and the enemy nexus. So this is a pretty straightforward champion. He can level up fairly quickly when paired with the right cards. Those cards being strike effects like Single Combat or Whirling Death, and then cards that grant vulnerable like Sejuani or Shakedown, things like that. He gets pretty scary at level 2 since when he's attacking, he's basically an 8/8 with Overwhelm, and then his level 3 is just insane. This is basically a one-sided avalanche every time he blocks or attacks, which is crazy. So your opponent is probably in a pickle if Renekton gets to level 3. But let's get something out of the way first before we talk about anything else regarding this champion. So Renekton is designed to be played with Buried Sun Disc, since he's ascended and has a level 3. So mono Shurima decks running this guy are probably going to be the most popular once Empires of the Ascended releases. Especially considering that we got some other cards revealed today that grant vulnerable, which is a keyword that pairs decently well with Renekton. And all those cards are pretty solid, so we'll review those cards a bit later. For now, let's talk about other possible decks that Renekton could be good in first, because I really want to talk about those, because Sun Disc decks are obvious. So, Demacia and Noxus have the most strike cards in the game. So outside of mono Shurima, Renekton might pair best with either of those regions. Especially because, in my opinion, strike effects are better than vulnerable in general, since that means Renekton can level up on a turn where you don't have the attack token. Demacia in theory seems a little bit better. It seems like the best option actually between the two, because you also get access to rally cards like Relentless Pursuit, giving Renekton more chances to deal damage. But Noxus should still be a consideration because of Katarina and her rally ability at level 2. That was one thing I did not mention yesterday, by the way, that I meant to talk about. Quite a few of the Shurima cards revealed yesterday have a lot of potential with Katarina, because those cards are based around leveling up your champions. And while Katarina is still one of the weaker champs in the game right now, She also levels up faster than any other champion currently. That might change with Shurima, but currently she levels up the quickest. The two regions with the most cards that have vulnerable are Freljord and Bilgewater. So Renekton might be decent when paired with either of those regions, but right now it does seem like Freljord and Bilgewater might be harder sells because, again, we got some other Shurima cards revealed today that also grant vulnerable and look pretty good. So Renekton might not need to run Bilgewater or Freljord to be good. All right, let's talk about Ruthless Predator. This is a 2-mana burst spell that reads, give an ally +2/+0 and an enemy vulnerable this round. If you cast it as a champion spell, it'll create a Renekton in your deck. I think this card will likely see standalone play in Sundisk decks, rocking Renekton. And what I mean by standalone is you will see copies of this in addition to the champion spell version from Renekton. I don't think it'll see much play outside of those decks, however, since while this is designed to be played with Renekton, there are better cards you could play with him if you're not running Sundisk that I mentioned earlier, like single combat. Rite of Dominance, 4-mana fast spell that reads, kill an ally or destroy a mana gem to give all enemies -2/-0 this round. This card actually seems interesting, but only because I'm curious as to what other cards will be getting in Shurima that could actually make losing a mana gem compelling, because on its own, losing mana sounds like the worst thing you could do in this game. But I mean, that said, we did get one other Shurima card revealed today that does work well with this card, which we'll talk about later in the video. But I think we need more than just one Shurima card that works with this. Otherwise, this card will end up pairing decently well with Shadow Isles in the worst case scenario. And that scenario actually isn't that bad, especially considering this works well with fearsome units, which is a Shadow Isles specialty. All right, so we're switching screens here to reveal the to show off the rest of the cards that got revealed today. Again, shout out to Cosmic for putting together this graphic. He's been putting these graphics together for quite some time now in the Legends of Runeterra community. Anytime spoiler season rolls around and a new set's getting ready to come out, so check out his Twitch stream above my face. That's the link, so feel free to check him out. All right, Bloodthirsty Marauder is what we're gonna start with here, since we've gone over Renekton, we've gone over Ruthless Predator, and we've gone over Rite of Dominance. And Dominus Destruction is just Renekton level 3 skill. So just a few more cards to get through. Bloodthirsty Marauder, 1 mana, 3/1. Nothing else going on here. It's not too exciting of a 1-drop. It's basically a better Legion Rearguard. So this card is the definition of power creep, because Legion Rearguard is the same card except it can't block. This can. That said, though, just because it's better than Rearguard doesn't mean Shurima is going to be necessarily as good as Noxus when it comes to aggro. We'll have to wait until we see the rest of the cards to really make that judgment call. Bakai Sandspinner might be Bachai Sandspinner or Basai Sandspinner. I don't know. Anyway, 4 mana, 5/3. When you play this, you grant an enemy -1/-0 and vulnerable. This seems decent. It reminds me of Nocturne, as the stats and mana cost are exactly the same and the ability is slightly weaker. I'm noticing a trend in these Shurima reveals, though. We're getting followers that are basically weaker versions of existing champions. In the first batch of card reveals, we were shown a 3-mana 1/6 that was similar to Soraka, and now we get this Nocturne lookalike. But anyway, this should be a solid choice for Renekton focused decks looking for a second 4-drop to play. But it's possible that this will only see play in Renekton decks that aren't playing Sundisk. And unfortunately, most of them will be, at least on day 1 of the new set. All right, Raz Bloodmane, 7 mana, 6/6 fearsome. And every time it attacks, you give enemies -2/-0 this round. So we get yet another expensive unit that doesn't do anything when it first comes into play. Granted, that's not quite as punishing in a game like Legends of Runeterra due to its design, but usually you're looking to finish the game when paying this much mana for a unit. Raz can do that, but only in very specific decks. The stat line's fine, but the ability only really matters if you're running a deck heavy on fearsome units or heavy on vulnerable or challenger effects. So this could be okay with Renekton, but I'm a little doubtful. There's worse late game bombs than this, but I wouldn't say this is one of the better ones either. Now, Exhaust is pretty spicy. This is a 1 mana focus spell that reads, give an enemy -2/-0 and vulnerable this round. So I have a bit more to say on this one. First off, let's answer the first question that comes to everybody's mind when they see this card. What is focus? Well, this got answered pretty quickly on Twitter earlier today. A lot of people in the community on Twitter and Discord, they were guessing that focus spells had the same speed that gems and other cards similar to gems do, that they couldn't be played during combat or in response to a spell, but were otherwise burst spells. Andrew Yip, aka Riot Umbrage, confirmed on Twitter that this is the case. So it looks like gems and other similar spells like the ones created by Lulu and Riven will be getting rewarded in the future. As far as Exhaust itself, there's not much to say on this card. I think it's a solid card that should find a home in Renekton Sun Disc decks, if nowhere else. I am hesitant to say this will be an auto include, just because as players, we're used to these focus spells being generated from other cards, usually at no additional cost. And we've never had to commit actual deck slots to them, so we might be a little hesitant to add this card into our deck at first. Later down the road, if things pan out, then I could definitely see Exhaust being an auto include, but I'm not jumping all in on it quite yet. I kind of want to see how things shape up. Anyway, Unworthy, 2 mana, slow spell. Give an enemy follower -4/-0 this round. If you have fewer mana gems than your opponent, kill it instead. So this is the card that was spoiled today that has synergy with Rite of Dominance. I think in order for this to see play, we need to see more cards from this set that destroy your own mana gems, and they have to be compelling. Otherwise, Rite of Dominance, I don't think is going to make this consistent enough to actually kill units. And finally, we have Quicksand. This is a 3 mana burst spell that reads, give an enemy -4/-0 and disable its keywords, excluding any negative keywords this round. So we got to see this card in action during the Renekton reveal on YouTube being used defensively. It looks solid, and it can be used offensively if your units have the right keywords on them or you manage to grant vulnerable to your target earlier in the game. But its best use will likely be on defense when your opponent isn't expecting it. At 3 mana, opponents are going to have to respect this burst spell when considering attacking against certain Shurima decks. This is another card. I'm hesitant to say it's an auto include though. I don't think every Shurima deck is going to want this, and even the ones that could take advantage of it might not have space. The effect is good. I'm just a little hesitant to say that this is just a game swinging effect. It kind of feels like a less flexible Sharp Sight. A better one would actually be Hush. This is more comparable to Targon's Hush. Definitely not as good as Hush, in my opinion anyway. But somewhere between Hush and like a less flexible Sharp Sight, this is where I would put Quicksand. So definitely a pretty good card. Just not quite sure how good. But that's it. Those were all the cards that got shown today. That was the Renekton reveal. If Riot is going to keep this schedule that keep the same schedule they've been keeping for pretty much every spoiler season so far, tomorrow we'll get more card reveals. We probably won't get a champion tomorrow. I'll be surprised if we do. They've kind of been doing this like reveal a new champion every other day. That's how they've been doing things. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. It lets me know that you made it till the end, and helps this video in the algorithm too. Helps it pop off in the algorithm and helps the channel grow consequently. If you loved it and you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos from me. And thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this. I hope you enjoyed your stay, and I'll see you next time.